Hey Brick Fanatics, today we have for you the brand new 10279 Volkswagen T2 Camper van. It contains 2,207 pieces and is available from August the 1st, 2021. It will retail for £149.99 in the UK, €159.99 across Europe and $179.99 in the US. Now, it looks great, but just like the real thing, it's incredibly temperamental. Let's find out why. Now, before we get into the build, it's worth noting, yet again, the box art. The now ubiquitous black packaging that accompanies every single 18 plus set is starting to get a little tired. A set like this could have benefited from the camper van in situ alongside a beach, sun setting in the background with the accompanying camping chairs and surfboard strewn about. It would have set the mood for the model inside beautifully, but instead it's the same old box art that fans have been presented with for well over a year and a half now. LEGO, it's time to update. The T2 camper van itself is not the most attractive looking of vehicles. It's undeniably iconic, but it hasn't got the sleek and sexy curves of, say, a Porsche 911 or an Aston Martin DB5, or even the quirky body shape of a VW Beetle. So for much of the opening stages, you're building a very blocky, very square framework, and as a result, it's not the most enjoyable of experiences. It's a fairly labour-intensive process, but also somewhat simple, and so the opening stages of the build don't feel particularly rewarding. Compared to other Creator Expert vehicles, this just simply isn't as enjoyable to build. At times it feels laborious rather than engaging. Of course, there are pockets of brilliance. The engine is a decent sub-assembly, the front and rear bumpers look excellent, and the front windscreen section looks perfect. But in a set that contains over 2,000 pieces, for the majority of the time it feels more like a chore to construct, and that's something LEGO never should be. It's also one of the most temperamental and fragile LEGO vehicles you're ever likely to build. The exterior features include opening driver and passenger doors, a sliding side door operated by a small button underneath the chassis, and a rear door and small boot. They look good, but feel very flimsy, and attaching them isn't that enjoyable either, with bits regularly falling off with the slightest of touches. It's often more frustrating than fun. It's a set that will probably have you questioning your skills as a LEGO builder. Surely a LEGO set can't be this fragile. Surely a mistake must have been made along the way. But when the front bumper, engine, rear boot and pop-up roof are all prone to having parts breaking off or simply falling to pieces, then something has definitely gone wrong in the design process. The build does offer up some enjoyment when the interior details are added. The kitchen unit itself is a very satisfying sub-assembly. It comes fully stocked with drinks and snacks and includes a refrigerator, gas stove, sink and kettle, the parts usage for which is particularly inspired. They not only look authentic, but the interior elements also function as they would inside a real VW camper van. The cupboards open, the table swings out and folds away, and the rock and roll bed, named because of the way it rocks and then rolls out into position, both rocks and rolls the way it should. It adds a nice layer of accuracy to the model, especially with the addition of fabric curtains adorning these windows. The pop-up roof is a surprisingly complex sub-assembly going across two bags, constructed using a Technic frame with shock absorbers and beams that create the popping action of the roof. Tiles and curved tiles are then used to cover the top, before a large fabric piece is added to finish it off. When raised, it does add so much to the final look of the set. Just don't expect to be lowering and raising it too often, stick with one look and keep it that way. Applying the various tiles around the sides is at least a more satisfying process. The medium azure and white colour scheme is vibrant and authentic, and the shaping, as blocky as it is pretty spot on. The snot techniques used throughout also lend itself to a very decent looking model. Surprisingly, the most enjoyable part of the build is actually the brick-built accessories that are included. A dark blue, dark orange and tan surfboard, and two folding camping chairs, which are wonderful little builds. They are simple but perfectly executed, fit incredibly snugly into a space in the roof, and makes for a really fun way to end the build. It's just a shame there aren't more moments like this spread across the entire set. The end result looks great, and 2011's 10220 T1 camper van pales in comparison to this latest design in terms of scale, authenticity and overall look. Saying that, on its own with the roof down, it's not exactly the most attractive looking LEGO vehicle ever. Optional stickers featuring flower power and surfing motifs are included to help the overall aesthetic, but pop the roof, open the side door, lean the surfboard against the van and unfold the camping chairs, and the whole thing immediately conjures up images of road trips and surfing holidays. It's by far the best way to display the set. Just remember not to touch it, or breathe on it, or even look at it the wrong way, for fear the whole thing will collapse into a heap of broken bricks. When it comes to the price, considering there are over 2,000 pieces inside, the retail value seems incredibly generous. If you value the part count and final design over the enjoyment garnered from actually building the thing, then this is a bit of a bargain. However, the fragile nature of the build is probably enough to put a few people off. Once finished, it is a very impressive looking model that does capture the unmistakable and iconic look of a VW camper van almost faultlessly. And fans of the VW brand will no doubt love the authenticity and levels of accuracy that this set offers. However, fans of creator expert vehicles in general might be quite disappointed with the build experience. It's nowhere near as enjoyable as some of the more recent models, such as the stylish 10295 Porsche 911 or the excellent 10274 Ecto 1. Parts of the build feel unnecessarily complicated and others just feel too simple. Despite its bulky appearance, it's so delicate and sometimes a highly frustrating model to build and move around. Whether or not this is something to recommend really comes down to what you look for in a LEGO set. If you're after an engaging and entertaining experience from start to finish, then there are far better creator expert sets out there. If, however, you're after a very decent looking camper van to display without ever touching it, regardless of the building process, then this is a set that you'll be happy with.